My name is Renger van Dijk. I'm a Managing Director of Farm Supplies Limited, the official Doosan distributor for the territory of Guyana. Thank you for choosing our company and thank you for choosing our equipment.
Good day, ma'am.
Good day to you, sir.
I'm a new Doosan customer and I need a force service for my excavator.
Well, sir, thank you for choosing our company and our product, and congratulations on buying
Thank you.
Doosan. My name is Debbie. I'm the workshop coordinator. I'm responsible for coordinating and planning all the workshop jobs. So you've come to the right department. Sir, you need to give me some information. I need your name, your address, your location, and then the number of hours your machine is at.
Sure, I can assist you with that. I'm experiencing some technical difficulties with my machine.
Sir, you would need to elaborate more on this technical difficulty you were telling me about. What's really happening to your machine?
Actually, my machine is losing power.
Sir, I have to refer you to product support, so let me just take you there. Sir, please meet our product support officer, Frank Thomas. He'll further assist you.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank
I
you.
heard you have some technical difficulty with your machine.
Yes, actually,
Have a seat.
yes, sir. What I noticed is that my machine is losing power.
Okay, sir. Presently, how much hours do your machine have?
250 hours.
Did you do the necessary filter change in your machine?
No.
Okay, sir. Let me refer you to the shop manual, the operator's manual, and I can explain to you exactly what you need to do. So, according to the shop manual, you need to do filter change every 250 hours for your fuel filters and oil filter, oil change too. And also, in additional to that, you have a bond your bolt on the supply line to the fuel pump. It needs to be clean.
Oh, I never know that, sir. Okay.
Do you have any other issues about the machine you'd like to ask presently?
Yes. What I noticed is that by the bucket area, the bushings actually there and the space is actually worn because my bucket is rocking. So I want to know if that is warranty.
Sir, these parts are consumables. You would need to change them from time to time. And I would advise you to grease them more regularly.
But sir, isn't this warranty?
Sir, the best person to explain to you what is warranty is a service manager. This is Mr. Shu, our service manager.
Nice to meet you, sir.
He will explain to you your questions about warranty.
Okay. Thank you, Frank.
Was warranty explained to you, sir?
Yes, sir, but maybe I misunderstood it.
Okay, sir, let me just explain to you what is warranty. Your new equipment comes with 2,000 hours or 1 year warranty. Warranty cover bad workmanship or defect in material. Just let me explain to you bad workmanship, for example. Say bolt wasn't being torqued on the excavator final drive properly during from the factory. If due to premature failure, due to that, it will be covered under warranty once it's been determined by the technician who visits your job site. That's covered for bad workmanship. In the event of bad material, let's take for example you have a crack in the weld on the boom or the arm.
Okay.
That will also be covered under warranty. Of course, again, once it's been determined by a field technician that visits you. So you understand the warranty policies on your new machine?
Yes, sir. Now I understand.
Okay. Let's go back to the bushing. Do you have a report on the wear pattern of the bushing, or did you take a measurement of the bushing?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, it's better to take a picture. Why? Because a picture speaks 1,000 words, and with a picture from the office, we'll be able to determine if there's a problem with the machine or it's a problem with maintenance. Okay, sir, because if it's due to bad maintenance, what I would like to recommend to you, which we offer, is a operator and serviceman training program, which lasts for about a day. And with that training, your operator and serviceman will be better able to service and maintain your machine, and so you could enjoy the full life of your equipment.
Okay, sir.
In case of a warranty issue, the normal procedure is that the field technician will visit the job site and do an investigation. He will take detailed pictures of the machine, serial number, and the working hours of the machine, and also a computer reading of the day-to-day operation of the machine, and also a detailed picture of the part that is in question for warranty. After that is being completed, a complete field report is being sent to the factory for it to be analyzed. Once the factory engineer determines its warranty due to bad workmanship or defective material, the credit is then issued to the dealer, and then the dealer issues the credit to the customer. I hope this explains to you what is warranty and the warranty procedure and policies for your new machine.
Hi, good day, sir.
Welcome to the spare parts counter at Farm Supplies.
Thank you, sir. I'm a new Doosan owner. I need some spares for my machine, but I don't know exactly what spares I need as yet. But first of all, I want you to show me exactly how to go about ordering parts from the parts manual, because I need some guidance how to use the parts manual.
Okay. What model machine do you have?
I have the DX340.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we have the manual for DX340.
Yeah, correct.
This manual is also included in your complimentary spares that you got with the machine.
Correct.
Okay. Now, as you could see, it marks parts manual, and it also gives you the model of your machine, DX340.
Yeah.
Alright. The parts manual can be used in two ways. And if you open the manual, the first page gives you a consumables list. Now, these consumables are parts that you will use during the course of the life of the machine. This is a quick reference list, and these are parts, what we call consumable parts.
Okay.
For instance, you have bucket teeth or undercarriage parts, you have hydraulic seal kits, you also have the filters. A normal service interval for a machine is every 250 hours you have to change the oil filter.
Okay.
So in the interior, 250 hours comes down to, let's say if you work 10 hours a day, that means every 25 days you have to change this filter. So the supplier made it easier by putting all the parts that you might have to change more frequent than other parts in a quick reference list and the first page of the book. As you can see, they always give you a description and a part number. So I'll just look at the same oil filter, but let me look at it how we would go through the manual. Now, an oil filter is part of the engine. So if we go now to the index, you will see the index has different chapters. What we need is engine parts. Now, engine parts, if you go look for the oil filter, we find it right here, 190 oil filter. The page number is 190-1. So if we go to the page number 190-1, here we see 190-1,
Correct.
we see an illustration of the oil filter. Now, as you can see, it has a number next to it, 1A. Now this illustration has multiple items, and they're all numbered in sequence. And as you can see, you have 1A, 1B, 2, 3, 4, 5, going all the way up to 16. But the number that we're looking for with the oil filter, which is illustration 1A, if you go back to your list with all, that is numbered from 1 to 16, you see at 1A a part number, and next to it the description, oil filter cartridge. Now for the parts department, this is the part number that we need in order for you to purchase parts. So any part that you want on the machine is in this manual, and the easiest way to find it is to start with the index. Is it a hydraulic part? Is it an electrical part? Is it a body part? Is it an engine part? Then narrow it down to the page that you need to go to, and once you're on the page, you'll have an illustration. In case a part is broken, you normally have the old part, so you can always refer back to the illustration, and the illustration will give you a number, and the number gives you back the page, and then a part number. And these are the part numbers that we need at the parts department. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So now that I explained everything on the parts manual to you, I would like to introduce you on the machine.
Sure.
Alright, let me just give you a quick rundown in terms of maintenance and service on this machine.
Okay, sure.
I always start in the beginning, in the middle of the machine, and then I'll carry you around to show you all the service points on this machine. The first things first, because it's a new machine, for the first 100 hours, this is what we call a ring gear. That's where the whole upper carriage from the lower carriage, the spin it. It's like a big bearing. Now, this bearing, for the first 100 hours, every 10 hours you have to grease it. And you see you have two grease nipples. This one greases the front of the bearing, this one greases the side of the bearing. And how the manual states it is that you put the grease gun with slow strokes, you actually grease the bearing on this nipple, 4 to 5 strokes, on this nipple, 4 to 5 strokes. Then you spin the machine 45 degrees, and then you repeat the action again with 4 to 5 strokes, slow strokes, and again the same thing. You spin it another 45 degrees, you spin it another 45 degrees until you meet the front. Now, greasing it for 10 hours for the first 100 hours means that every day, in the morning and in the afternoon, you have to grease the machine on these 2 points. After that, every 100 hours, that means every 10 days, you're going to grease this ring, this swing bearing. If you over grease it, let's just say you would pump grease in there too fast, then you see underneath here, there's a seal. Now this seal here would pop out because it is a small lip that holds it. But the same bearing carries two seals, one on the inside and one on the outside. Now, the one on the outside is easy to change because you just press it back into place. But the one on the inside requires you to lift up the whole upper carriage and then replace the seal. Now that's an expensive and dangerous actually activity to change that seal. And you only do it when it's required, when you have to change this swing bearing. Second part, all these are pins. Now the pins are only situated on the front part of the machine. So all the cylinders are connected by pins and all the boom and arms are connected by pins. So every pin has to be greased every 5 hours, every day, for the full lifespan of the machine, because these pins continuously have movement in them. So if you have to change a pin prematurely, means that you didn't grease it enough. All like how the machine is new, this area now is clean. But how it's supposed to look on a working machine, this is supposed to be dirty with grease. Now these grease nipples you can grease as hard as you want and as much as you want, as long as the grease pops out from the side, as you can see here. And now pins means only the front part of the machine. As you could see, we have two pins here, one big pin here. Then where they're connected there, we have two pins again connected. Then where the arm cylinder is, we have another couple of pins connected. And then where the bucket area is also where all the pins are connected. So all the pins are easy right on the front of the machine, nowhere else. And those will be greased every 5 hours for the full life of the machine. So I'm going to repeat again. The swing bearing, those only for the first 100 hours, every 10 hours, after which every 100 hours. The pins every 5 hours for the full lifespan of the machine. So this is the final drive. A final drive has gear oil, 140, 85W140 gear oil. Now you change this for the first time at 100 hours, after which you change it every 250 hours. So if you work at a 10 hours per day, that means after 10 days, you'll have to change the first time the oil. After then, you'll have to change every 25 days. So every month, you have to change this oil. Now, as you could see, they made it very simple. To drain out the oil, you basically take out the drain plug, you take out the level plug and the fill plug. The oil will start running out. The moment all the oil is out, you put back in the drain plug and then you start filling from the fill plug. The moment it runs over and oil starts running out from the level plug, that means it's to level. So now you can actually stop filling up, close back the level, close back the fill, and you're ready. The truck chain. What determines the lifespan of a truck chain is the tension. The ideal truck tension for Guyana is actually 13 inches. And how do we measure that and how do you adjust that? Now you measure it by lifting up one side of the machine with the bucket so that the truck is hanging down. When it's hanging down, you now take a measurement from the middle of the machine, which is the middle roller, from the heart of it, from this truck frame to the top of this truck pod. Now the measurement between here and here has to be 13 inches. 13 inches is ideal. A little bit slacker, a little bit tighter, depends on, for tighter is for more rocky environment. A little bit slacker is for a more muddy environment, but 13 inches is ideal for both situations. How do you adjust the truck tension? As you can see, we have a truck valve. The truck tension is basically tensioned by a truck cylinder. In here, there's a truck cylinder that is pressing this idler to the front. Now, when you put your grease gun here, you pump it up with grease, it pushes out a piston and therefore tensions the truck chain by pushing forward the idler. So how do you detension it is by basically releasing the truck valve and therefore releasing grease. The piston comes back and the truck chain will go looser. So how do we adjust the truck tension? By basically pumping of grease to tighten or releasing grease to loosen. How do you determine if a roller is good or bad? You can see if the roller is round at the bottom, that means that the roller has been rolling. The moment the roller at the bottom is straight or it has been grinded off, that means it's been grinding on the chain and therefore the roller is bad. It's not rolling anymore. As you can see, this whole front area and the rest of the front attachment all have pins, and these have to be greased every 5 hours. Now, these are what we call consumable parts. Pins, what determines the lifespan of a pin? Actually, the amount of grease that you put. The more you grease it, the longer life it'll give you. Because certain area, this bucket is always digging in the dirt. Now, when dirt mixes with water and it forms a paste, it starts wearing out metal very fast. Now, what prevents that from happening, it keeps the dirt away, is grease. That's why the more you grease, the better actually for the machine. And that will determine the lifespan of a pin. Also the bushings, in this compartment you have bushings. Every part here has bushings. And these are made out of brass. Now, again, the brass have grooves in them. So as you're greasing from different points on this front attachment, grease enters them and the grooves now guides the grease and spreads it over the bushings and over the pins. And that's preventing metal to metal contact. So the more grease, the better. Also something which are the bucket teeth. The teeth basically consist of a retainer and a teeth, and the teeth are connected by the retainer by a pin and a lock. So as you can see, we have different size of buckets. We have a 5 teeth or a 6 teeth bucket. The 6 teeth are normally could move more stuff. The 5 teeth are usually the harder buckets for rocky areas. Now, the teeth, how fast the teeth wear depends on the type of material that you're actually digging in. If it's mud, it will probably last a long time. If it's sand, white sand, it will eat away the teeth extremely fast. So what determines the lifespan of a teeth is actually the material that you're digging. When you choose a bucket, you chose the bucket, let's just say when you were working in a muddy area, but now you're moving into a rocky area. Now, the bucket is not meant for that, but you're still going to have to work the machine with that bucket. That means that the bucket will be performing duties beyond its capability. Now, you might have cracking happening alongside the side of the bucket, maybe on the back of the bucket, on the ears of the bucket, or on the bottom of the bucket. This doesn't necessarily mean it's a material failure. It is a material failure, but because the bucket is not meant to move rocks. In that case, we advise enforce the bucket. Extra plate it, plate the bottom, plate the sides, put in an extra gusset, as what the supplier did here, and to better protect the bucket against the type of environment you're using it in. What you can also do is actually build up the lip plates and also build up the teeth. Now I'll explain to you what we have in the engine compartments of the machine. As you can see, here we have a raker filter assembly. We install this from Farm Supplies in the machine because of the fuel condition and the high sulfur content in the interior. We install an additional filter. Now this is what we call a water separator. Tropical conditions, they draw a lot of moisture, and therefore we have to drain the tank from water. Now from the fuel tank, the water enters the first separator, which also has a screen. This screen is a washable screen. You don't have to replace it. All you can do is take it out and wash it. You open it by turning this and removing it. Then from here the fuel goes to the raker filter. And the raker filter has in here a raker assembly. A raker filter, which is a paper filter which has an aqua block. Now aqua block prevents water from passing through the filter. It keeps it on the bottom every morning to drain it out. What you see here is concerning the AC. You have this is the evaporator. And this is your cooling package. The cooling package consists of an intercooler, a radiator, an oil cooler, and the condenser. This is for the AC system. The idea is to keep this area clean from leaves and debris, because the fan from the engine is blowing air through this cooling package. Now the moment you see your engine overheating or anything of the sort is happening, it could be that your cooling package is blocked. So always keep this area clean. What you have here is the expansion bottle for your radiator. So you can always keep this bottle to the mark. The supplier always sends it with some additional coolant in case of any rupture or any leakage. They always send it with additional. Now before the machine is delivered to a customer, we always drain it between the low and the full mark. In this compartment here you have the throttle motor. Now as you can see, you can't really see it, but there is a cable here which is connected all the way to the fuel pump in front. The throttle motor controls the throttle of the engine. So when you're moving your dial to increase or decrease the speed, this cable is basically pulling it, and the computer is communicating with this motor that is in here, which is an electromotor. So now I have explained the cooling package, the fuel filter assemblies, the expansion bottle for the radiator, and also the condenser for the AC unit. Now we go over to this area. This is the air filter assembly. This is the air filter housing. Now how do you check your air filter if it's clean or dirty? You remove this cover and you take out the filter. When you're cleaning your filter, the outer filter will have to be changed more often than the inner filter. There's always two filters. The outer filter, always when you're cleaning an air filter, if you have a compressor in camp, blow from the inside out, never from the outside in. Always blow from the inside out. And how can you see if a filter is permanently blocked and you have to throw it away? Is by actually putting it against the sun, and if you can see the sunlight shining through the paper, if you can see it, as you're turning it, once you can see the sunlight through the paper, that means that the air filter is actually still usable. Once you cannot see the sunlight through the air filter, that means that it's completely blocked, and therefore it has to be thrown away and you have to change it. So more than likely you will change your outer air filter more often than you will do your inner air filter. What you see here are pilot lines. Now these are connected to your joysticks and your foot pedal. From here they actually go to over there what is called your control valve. That's the distribution center for hydraulic oil. From there the oil is basically distributed to the different components of the machine. Okay. This pilot bunk is what activates or deactivates your controls. The red lever in the cabin, when you pull up the red lever, you're engaging the pilot system. Now, that means that first one, when you engage it, it sends an electrical signal and it pulls this solenoid, and therefore allowing oil now to go to your joysticks. And then it activates your controls. So if, let's just say, you start up one morning and you turn the red handle on the side and the machine does not move, that could be because this solenoid is bad, because it's not allowing any oil to go to your controls. These two, well, the second one is for your travel speed. When you want to go from turtle to rabbit, when you push the button, this solenoid is opening and therefore sending a signal to your travel motors, allowing the swash to swash a little bit more and therefore giving you more speed. The last solenoid is for your breaker. Now, this machine is not equipped with a breaker, and therefore it's redundant. You actually have this as a spare, so you can use, in case one of the others fails, you can always take this one off and put it there. Now here you have a small bottle. This can be filled with window wash. This is actually for your wipers for the cabin. If the operator has a hard time to see, you refill the bottle from here, and basically this is your window wash. Here behind this panel you have your AC filter, your outer AC filter. So air is basically being sucked from this part going into the cabin. The AC system has two filters, an outer one and an inner one in the cabin. What you see there is an accumulator. It serves two purposes. It serves, the first primary source is that it keeps a charge pressure on your pilot system, and it also acts like a shock absorber for your pilot system. So if your operator complains that his joysticks are vibrating, it could be that this accumulator is bad. Now, a charge pressure also means for safety. So let's just say your boom and arm is up in the air and your machine cuts off, the engine cuts off, but you want to safely put your boom and arm back on the ground. Now, without that accumulator, if the accumulator is bad, even with the engine cut off, it allows you to lower, because your pilot joysticks still work, because it still has some amount of pressure charged in there and sends it to the joysticks, allowing you to lower your boom and arm. So it has two functions: to keep a charge pressure on your pilot system, and also to as a shock absorber for your pilot system. So as you could see, this is the swing reduction with the swing motor. The swing motor is driving the swing reduction, and in the swing reduction works with gear oil, 85W140. Now you have to change this for the first time at 100 hours, after which every 250 hours. So it's the same thing as with the final drives. For the first time at 100 hours, the swing reduction also the first time at 100 hours, after which every 250 hours. Every 25 days you would have to change this swing reduction oil with the 85W140 gear oil. So the swing reduction works with this 85W140 gear oil. How do you change this oil? You drain it from the drain plug. You basically take off this nut and you let the oil run out. When you're finished, when all the oil runs out, you close it back again, and as you could see on the top there, you have a fill pipe, and on the other side you have a dipstick to check the level, and then basically you put it to the highest mark of the dipstick. As you could see, this is the bottom plate. We fabricate and put on a thicker bottom plate than the manufacturer, and which is held up together with 5 bolts. The middle bolt is the one that holds all the load, and the side bolts, the 4 side bolts, basically just support it. Every morning, let the operator or serviceman check that these bolts are being held in place, because the operator will not notice if the bottom plate is missing. Now we come to the next side door. As you could see, this is the hydraulic pump and the hydraulic pump compartment. In the hydraulic pump compartment we have, of course, the hydraulic pump, we have the pilot filter, and we have the stop motor, and we have the fuel transfer pump. Now I'll start with the fuel transfer pump. The fuel transfer pump is a pump to fill up the fuel tank of the excavator with. You can basically bring the fuel tank, the fuel drum to the side of the machine. You put the fuel hose into the drum and you turn on the fuel pump, and it sucks in the fuel and transfers it into the fuel tank. That's why we call this a fuel transfer pump. The hydraulic pump consists of 3 pumps: the front pump, the rear pump, and the pilot pump. So the front pump is the closest one to the engine, the rear pump is the closest one to the outside, and then the pilot pump. The pilot pump only produces flow for the pilot system. So these hoses are connected to the pilot system. Now from the pilot pump it first goes to a pilot filter. The pilot filter basically is a pilot filter bowl which you can screw on. When you unscrew the pilot filter bowl, you have a small pilot filter which is a cartridge filter. Now the moment you notice on your machine, if the machine is starting to operate slow, it could be that this pilot filter is slightly blocked from a little bit of debris. That means that not enough oil is now going through the joysticks. And if the joysticks don't have enough oil, not enough oil is going to the control valve to move the spools for a movement. And therefore the machine is either going to start becoming very slow, the boom, the arm, the bucket, or the traveling. So if the operator complains the filter is blocked, the machine is moving slow, you could change your pilot filter. Now what does the manufacturer say? This filter has to be changed every 500 hours. So if you work 10 hours a day, that means every 50 days or every 2 months. So every 2 months you change this filter, and the filters are relatively inexpensive. So on the hydraulic pump we also have 2 regulators. The regulators are what actually control the speed of the machine. So when you're touching a lever and you want more power or more speed, a regulator is moves the swash and therefore moves the machine faster or slower. Another part, the hydraulic pump has 3 electrical items. One is a proportional valve which is electronically controlled, and 2 pressure sensors that give you a pressure reading in the cabin. So what do we have here in the hydraulic pump compartment is the fuel transfer pump, the hydraulic pump consisting of a front pump, a rear pump, a pilot pump which is then connected to a pilot filter, and we have a stop motor. Explanation?
Yep.
Now when you change hydraulic oil on an excavator, you have to prime the hydraulic pump back again. You drain out the hydraulic oil from the hydraulic tank, and then you fill back oil into the hydraulic tank, and then you prime back by removing this nut here. You fill this nut with, you fill the hydraulic pump up with hydraulic oil, and then you close back the nut and then slightly slack it. You start the engine and run it on idle speed, slack the nut until oil starts flowing out and all the air bubbles come out of the system. So this here is a location to fill the hydraulic pump from, and also to bleed the hydraulic pump from. Also, when you've changed hydraulic oil and how to check your hydraulic oil level, there's a hydraulic oil level gauge here. How do you check the level on a Doosan excavator? By extending the arm and boom and bucket all the way. All the cylinders have to be in. Once the cylinders are in, you park the machine on a level ground, and the oil levels should be between these two red lines. This is the battery compartment. The battery compartment then has the batteries, a battery kill switch, a main breaker, a fusible link, and a starting relay. Always keep the battery compartment clean. As you can see, if any tools are kept here or grease, the batteries could cause an electrical spark, and the fuel tank is situated right behind the battery compartment, so always keep this area clean, because a spark could be detrimental to the machine, whereby in contact with fuel you could have an explosion. So always keep the battery compartment clean. When you're doing welding on a machine, always turn the battery kill switch off. In this case, you do not have to remove the leads anymore from the batteries. This is the main breaker, the fusible link, and the battery relay. So as you can see, this is the swing motor with a swing reduction. This is the dipstick to check the oil, and this is the fill pipe to fill back the 85W140 for the swing reduction. This is the control valve. So all the pilot lines are connected to the control valve, and the control valve distributes the oil to the different movements of the machine: traveling, swinging, digging, so the cylinders. So the control valve, this is the swing motor, which swings the machine with a reduction, and that is the center joint. That is the center joint. The center joint allows oil to go to the travel motors at the bottom, and at the same time it allows you to swing as many turns as you want without damaging any pipes. It's a long cylindrical shaft with 9 seals with different ports, which allows oil to be distributed from the top of the machine, from the upper carriage to the lower carriage. This is the fuel tank. Now the fuel tank, as you could see, we could fill the fuel tank by the fuel transfer pump in the hydraulic pump compartment, but you can also fill it from the normal top of the tank. You basically have a special lock. You need a key, the excavator key, to take off the cover, and then you can fill up the fuel tank. This is the hydraulic tank. Now you notice that the hydraulic tank has 2 circles. Underneath this plate we have the hydraulic return filter. So the oil flows back into the tank and then goes through the return filter back into the tank. Now this is a breather cap. You hear this sound? This is me relieving pressure from the hydraulic tank. What the breather cap does is allows air in, it allows air to come in, but it doesn't allow air to go out. And therefore the air that builds up in here pulls vacuum, and it pushes the oil down in the tank towards the hydraulic pump. So if this is bad, your hydraulic pump could suck air and therefore cause cavitation, and therefore your hydraulic pump could prematurely fail. So always check this. And how do you check it? By just moving it and listening for that sound. Now in here there's also a little air filter. When that big air filter of the machine is blocked, more than likely this small air filter in here will also be blocked. How do you remove this air filter? By taking out this small Allen key, removing the cap, and then there's a small cartridge air filter. You replace this air filter when the big air filter is blocked. The fuel tank, this is the fill part, so you can fill the fuel tank through the feed pump, the auxiliary feed pump, and you can also fill it from the top of the tank. At the same time, the fuel tank has a gauge. Now the fuel level gauge is seen in the cabin, but at the same time you still have a manual gauge on the side of the fuel tank. This is the engine compartment. As you can see, this is the engine bonnet, and here we have the engine. As I explained to you when we were at the cooling package door, this is the cooling package, the radiator, the oil cooler, the intercooler for the engine. Now, in case the operator says that the engine is overheating, he's seeing on the panel in the cabin that the engine is overheating, always check to see if the screens are clean. If the screens are clean and he's still seeing overheating, check your belt tension. Now, how do you check your belt tension? A lot of people have a tendency to want to push the belt down. But the only way to properly check your belt tension is by putting your hand on the fan and pulling. Once you could pull the fan against the belt tension, that means that the belt is slack. Once you cannot pull the fan against the belt tension, that means that the fan belt is properly tightened. Because once the engine starts spinning, if you could pull the fan against the belt tension, that means under load the belt would now slip and therefore not cool the engine enough and therefore cause the engine to overheat. So the primary cause of an overheating engine is always the belt tension. How do you tension the belt? By the alternator. You have a lock nut and an adjustment nut. You loosen the lock nut, adjust the alternator to pull the belt, and then lock back the lock nut. This is the engine oil dipstick. So this is when you pull the dipstick, the oil level has to be between the two marks. How do you fill the oil? By on the engine Tapex cover there is an engine oil fill cap. Remove the cap and fill up oil from here. The oil filter is situated on the bottom part of the engine. By removing a bottom plate, you can unscrew the oil filter, prime the oil filter and screw it back onto the engine oil filter base. Now, this is the last fuel filter in the system. I've shown you in the cooling package compartment there's an primary filter, secondary filter, and this is the third filter. Now, from this filter fuel goes to the lift pump, which is on the side of the fuel pump. The lift pump has a priming piece which you can push down and prime the engine with. At the same time, the bolt at the lift pump is a banjo bolt with a little strainer. So if the operator at one point would complain that the machine has no power, it could be that not enough fuel is going to the engine, and therefore causing the engine not to work at full capacity, because fuel is power. So if you've changed all your fuel filters and the engine is still not giving you maximum power, it could be that the same banjo bolt, which has a little plastic strainer inside, has some debris inside, and therefore not allowing a full flow of fuel to go to the fuel pump, and therefore not giving you enough power output. So as I was saying, in the cooling package side door there is a throttle motor, and it has a bicycle cable to pull it to throttle the engine. This is where the cable is ending. This is also where you adjust the RPM from. Also with the stop on the stop screw. This is the stop motor. This is also connected with a bicycle cable, and as you could see, the engine is in stop mode, so the lever is pulled to the stop position. One thing with this same lever here, if also the operator complains that the engine has no power, it could be that the stop lever is pulled halfway and therefore not allowing full flow of fuel to the engine, and therefore not giving you the maximum output of the engine. Action. We're now in the cabin behind the seat, and as you can see here we have the inner AC filter. On the outside of the cabin was the outer AC filter. This is the inner AC filter. This port here is a service port. This is what the technicians would use to extract information from the excavator computer. This is the CD MP3 player. CD can be put, but it's also MP3 ready, which can be plugged in here. This is the fuse box with a description of all the fuses and some spare fuses. Underneath here is the excavator computer. This computer should only be touched by a certified technician. And that is the manual throttle controller. So if your electronic throttle controller is not working, you can always manually throttle the engine from this throttle. Okay. These are the controls on the right hand side. We here have the controls for the wiper. This is the controls for the AC. These are the controls for the lights. This is for the breaker, which is an option. This is for the rabbit or for turtle. And this is for the radio. We start and stop the engine from the key. And this is the throttle switch. Very important, this switch enables or disables the computer. Or let me say it better, this bypasses the computer or goes through the computer. This switch should all time be to 1. If the machine behaves erratic or has no power, that means that this switch has been switched to 0. Always check and make sure that the switch is switched to 1. Whenever you have an electrical failure and the computer is not working, then you can switch the switch to 0 to just work the machine without the computer. So this is a computer bypass switch. This is the excavator panel. As you can see, you have a couple of buttons. Power, this means is when you want the machine to work in power mode. You switch it by turning it on, the light will blink. And you switch it off by pressing it again and the light will come off. Auto, this means that when you're not using the excavator and you're at full RPM, that automatically the engine RPM will drop to 1400 RPM. The rest of the buttons, this button here, it enters you into the menu of the machine by pressing it. With the arrows up and down, you can actually select and go through the different options in the menu. By entering, if you have an option that you want to enter, this is the enter button. And if you want to come out of these options, you press escape. So the same menu button is also the escape button. And these are the buttons to scroll through the menu. The hours are measured in 2 ways. Everything within the white square is a tenth of an hour. Everything in front of this white square is a full hour. So if the excavator has 101 hour, that means it has 100 hours and 1/10 of an hour. So as you could see, we touched on all the pieces of the machine. I hope you're more familiar with the machine. But as an extra, what I wanted to tell you, what Farm Supplies Limited throws in for the machine as well. And I'll have to show you these items individually, which come as a free of charge. You're not paying for it, it's included in the same price, are a couple of items. We have a turntable scraper. So every time when the machine swings, it keeps the turntable clean. That's item number 1. Another additional part which we put in free of cost, no charge, which is included in the price of the machine, is the side bumpers. This is for point of service. It's easy to walk around the machine, and at the same time it also protects the machine from any hits that it could get from the side. Another feature is we put on the side rails for the idler. What we notice on these machines is that at around 8,000, 9,000 hours, the idler has a tendency to want to sprawl. So by putting in a reinforcement on the inside and on the outside, this now will never happen to the machine. So we also install this free of charge, and therefore extending the life of the machine. The raker filter assembly is also installed free of charge. This raker filter assembly is a water separator. The filter that works inside has aqua block paper that prevents water from getting through, and there's also a drain, so to drain off the water. Now this complete assembly is also installed free of charge. And the last feature is the bottom plate. which I showed you already, which is a thick bottom plate which we install free of charge, which prevents any trees or any stumps from hitting through. Now, if I summarize everything, we put on a scraper, we put on a side bumper, we put on the side rails, and we put on a raker filter and a bottom plate, all free of charge. It comes with the machine. So now that I explained everything on the machine, I would like to introduce you to the service department.